Good morning. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, it is Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. And since it's Tuesday, that means it's lunch pickup day. So, of course, I will be up at the school from 12 to 3 handing out lunches. I may not be there next week because I'm getting a new roof on my house. So, just a heads up, I may not be there next week. I don't know yet though. But since my body decided I was going to get up at 6:30 this morning, and also my sister called me at 6:30 this morning, I am up, I'm ready to go, have my coffee, and I have somebody coming over at 10 to look at our yard to give us an estimate on lawn care. So Miss Rhodes, it's a busy day today. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on the recordings. So your assignment today for Bridge to Terabithia was to read chapters 9 and 10. So you're going to hit a very important part of the story at the end of chapter 10. And then after that, it's one chapter per day because we're almost done with the book. Like I said, it's not a very long book. But I'm going to start with chapter 9 first, and then I'll record chapter 10 and get those posted. And hopefully before I leave, I'll be able to read the next chapter of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. As you can see, we're over halfway through. And hopefully I'll be able to finish that next week if I continue reading a chapter a day. But we'll see how things go. So we're going to start with Bridge to Terabithia. So when we last left off in Bridge to Terabithia, which you probably listened to yesterday because I sent all of the links yesterday, the last video I posted was chapter 8, and it was all about Easter and Jess's family going to church during only on Easter and Leslie going with them. Now, Leslie's family has never been to church. They don't go to church. So it was a very enlightening experience for Leslie, I guess we could say. But Leslie has never read the Bible. So Maybelle said at the end of chapter 8, what's going to happen if you die and you don't believe in the Bible, basically. So we're going to find out. Well, everyone's belief systems are different, but the end of chapter 8 gave a little bit of foreshadowing that something bad may end up happening. But we will get there when we get there. So let's get started. Chapter 9, The Evil Spell. On Easter Monday, the rain began again in earnest. It was as though the elements were conspiring to ruin their short week of freedom. Jess and Leslie sat cross-legged on the porch at the Burkses, watching the wheels of a passing truck shoot huge sprays of muddy water to its rear. That ain't no 55 miles per hour, Jess muttered. Just then, something came out of the window of the cab. Leslie jumped to her feet. "Litterbug!" she screamed after the already disappearing taillights. Jess stood up too. "What do you want to do?" "What I want to do is go to Terabithia," she said, looking out mournfully at the pouring rain. "Heck, let's go," he said. "Okay," she said, suddenly brightening. "Why not?" She got her boots and raincoat and considered the umbrella. "Do you think we could swing across holding the umbrella?" He shook his head. "Nah." "We better stop by your house and get your boots and things." He shrugged. "I don't have nothing that fits. I'll just go like this." "I'll get you an old coat of Bill's." She started up the stairs. Judy appeared in the hallway. "What are you kids doing?" It was the same words that Jess's mother might have used, but it didn't come out the same way. Judy's eyes were kind of fuzzed over as she spoke, and her voice sounded as though it were being broadcast from miles away. "We didn't mean to bother you, Judy." "That's all right. I'm stuck right now. I might as well stop." "Have you had any lunch?" "It's all right, Judy. We can get something ourselves." Judy's eyes focused slightly. "You've got your boots on." Leslie looked down at her feet. "Oh, yeah," she said, as though she were just noticing them herself. "We thought we'd go out for a while." "Is it raining again?" "Yeah." I used to like to walk in the rain, Judy smiled, the kind of smile Maybelle did in her sleep. Well, if you two can manage, sure. Is Bill back yet? No, he said he wouldn't be back until late, not to worry. Fine, she said. Oh, she said suddenly, her eyes popped open wide. Oh! She almost ran back to her room, and the plinkety plink of the typewriter began at once. Leslie was grinning. She came unstuck. He wondered what it would be like to have a mother whose stories were inside her head instead of marching across the television screen all day long. He followed Leslie up the hall to where she was pulling things out of a closet. She handed him a beige raincoat and a peculiar round black woolly hat. No boots. Her voice was coming out of the depths of the closet and was muffled by a line of overcoats. How about a pair of clumps? A pair of what? She stuck her head out between the coats. Cleats, cleats. She produced them. They looked like size 12s. Nah, I'd lose them in the mud. I'll just go barefoot. Hey, she said, emerging completely. Me too. The ground was cold. The icy mud sent little thrills of pain up their legs, so they ran, splashing through the puddles and slushing in the mud. P.T. bounded ahead, leaping fish-like from one brown sea to the next, then turning back to herd the two of them forward, nipping at their heels and further splashing their already sopping jeans. When they got to the bank of the creek, they stopped. It was an awesome sight, like in the Ten Commandments on TV, when the water came rushing into the dry path Moses had made and swept all the Egyptians away. The long, dry bed of the creek was a roaring 8-foot wide sea, sweeping before it great branches of trees, logs, and trash, swirling them about like so many Egyptian chariots, the hungry waters licking and sometimes leaping the banks, daring them to try to confine it. Wow. Leslie's voice was respectful. Yeah. Jess looked up at the rope. It was still twisted around the branch of the crabapple tree. His stomach felt cold. Maybe we ought to forget it today. Come on, Jess. We can make it. The hood of Leslie's raincoat had fallen back, and her hair lay plastered to her forehead. She wiped her cheeks and her eyes with her hand, then untwisted the rope. She unsnapped the top of her coat with her left hand. Here, she said, stick PT in here for me. I'll carry him, Leslie. With that raincoat, he'll slip right out of the bottom. She was impatient to be gone, so Jess scooped up the sodden dog and shoved him rear first into the cave of Leslie's raincoat. You gotta hold his rear with your left arm and swing with your right, you know. I know. She moved backward to get a running start. Hold tight. Good gosh, Jess. He shut his mouth and he wanted to shut his eyes too, but he forced himself to watch her run back, race to the bank, leap, swing, and jump off, landing gracefully on her feet on the far side. Catch! He stuck his hand out. But he was watching Leslie and PT and not concentrating on the rope, which slipped off the end of his fingers and swung in a large arc out of his reach. He jumped up and grabbed it, shutting his mind to the sound and sight of the water. He ran back and then speeded forward. The cold stream lapped at his bare heels momentarily, but then, when he came into the air above it, and falling awkwardly and landing on his bottom, PT was on him immediately, muddy paws all over the beige raincoat, and pink tongue sandpapering Jess's wet face. Leslie's eyes were sparkling. Arise, she barely swallowed a giggle. Arise, King of Terabithia, and let us proceed to our kingdom. The King of Terabithia snuffled and wiped his face on the back of his hand. I will arise, he replied with dignity, when thou removes this foul dog off my gut.